The 10th labor of Heracles, the cattle of Geryon. When gods trembled, Heracles and the cattle of Geryon. Have you ever wondered what lies behind the myths? Not just stories, but epic sagas intertwined with our reality. Have you ever faced challenges so insurmountable that it seemed as if the universe itself was conspiring against you? This is where our story begins, not with a battle, but with a question. How did mortal Heracles defeat a divine creature? Dear listener, amplify your thoughts and stretch them to the level of hyperbole. Don't think this is going to be a boring history lesson. Get ready for a story that will make your biceps jiggle and your heart gallop. And don't think this will be a boring history lesson. Oh no. This will be a journey into the heart of heroism, where every step Heracles takes reveals new facets of human nature. It's not just a story about muscle and beef, it's a mirror reflecting our own struggles and triumphs. Let's travel behind the veil of time, to an era when gods played with mortals and heroes danced with fate. We will plunge headfirst into the mythological abyss. Our focus will be on Heracles, that muscular son of Zeus, that courageous demigod. Heracles is a name that has entered the annals of time, only for his strength, but also for his tenacity in facing the impossible. He faced his most daring challenge, the cattle of Geryon. Imagine the three-headed Geryon, a titan among men, a giant so formidable that even the bravest souls trembled. His cattle are guarded by the two-headed hound Erytheia. The audacity of this task makes a man's heart sink. Heracles, with nothing but strength and wit, met this challenge face to face. It is an episode that blurs the boundaries between man and myth, a story so grandiose that it could only be fit for the son of Zeus. As we immerse ourselves in this work, we wonder, what is it about Heracles that resonates so deeply with us? Brute strength, cunning, or perhaps humanity in confronting the insurmountable? Are you intrigued? Good, let's gallop into the wild pastures of ancient Greece. Heracles had already completed 9 impossible tasks and stood on the threshold of his 10th labor. The cattle, rumored to be red with the blood of their rivals, grazed in the farthest corners of the world, where the sea meets the sky. Heracles' journey was not just about physical opponents. It was a battle of the psyche, a confrontation with the very essence of fear. What compels a man to face such horrors? Glory, madness, or the desire to die? But the gods, sipping ambrosia and chuckling, as befits cheeky deities, decided to push on. They presented him with Geryon, a three-headed enigma, a dude with 3 sets of everything, bodies, heads and arms, and a temper hotter than the forges of Hephaestus. His 3 heads symbolized the complexity of life, past, present and future. His triple body reflected our multifaceted existence, physical, emotional and spiritual. But Geryon wasn't just a freak show and cattle rancher, he was a metaphor. He owned a herd of cattle that Zeus himself would envy. The question might arise, why go to so much trouble for some cows? These golden-horned goats were the Kardashians of the cattle world. They were divine, their hides glistening like gold under the relentless sun. They were not mere animals, but glistening, red-colored beasts guarded by the two-headed hound Erytheia and the shepherd Erytheia. They represented our desires, elusive, shimmering, and worth chasing. Golden horns, gleaming skins, and a moo that could melt butter. They are the envy of gods and men, creatures of legend whose mere presence commands the winds and seas. Heracles, as befits an honors student, had to bring in these precious moo-moos as his 10th job. This was the reality for the hero. Heracles' task is not just a show of strength, it is a struggle against the impossible, a testament to the human will. What courage! Not only to confront Geryon, but to surpass him, to steal these glorified cattle as if he were merely picking apples from a tree. Now let's talk strategy. Heracles did not pack lightly and set out on his quest armed with a club and a quiver full of arrows. His courage carried him to the edge of the world. There he faced the three-headed watchdogs of doubt, fear, and uncertainty. They stepped on his heels and whispered, "Turn back, mortal. This path leads to madness." But Heracles went forward, spurred on by a fire that burned brighter than Olympus itself. Geryon's ranch spread out on the horizon, a tapestry of rolling hills and heavenly meadows. It was like a ball Versailles. Cattle with eyes like constellations grazed on stardust in the heavenly grass, and their milk turned to liquid gold. Heracles tiptoed past the three-headed guard dogs, who were too busy arguing over which head would get the last bone and stole the cattle. But Geryon, bless his triple-headed heart, woke up during the robbery. Now let's turn the page and look at the scene of carnage and perfidy. Heracles, the hero of our tale, does not simply enter and lead the cattle away. No, he encounters monsters who defy nature, a god whose breath can sizzle the earth, and a giant who towers over mortals like a mountain over molehills. Tension is in the air. The ground is saturated with the anticipation of battle. Sitting here, away from this mythical struggle, think of the courage of Heracles. He does not flinch at the sight of Ortrus, whose heads blaze with the fury of the underworld. He does not flinch when Erytheia stands with spear in hand, ready to defend his charge. And when Geryon, the colossus of fury, appears, Heracles stands at full height, his resolve unwavering. Sophists will tell you that it was a game of wits, where every move was calculated, as in chess. Let's not exaggerate. But let's imagine that Heracles used not only his famous strength, but also a deep understanding of the nature of men and gods. He knew that every creature, no matter how many heads or bodies it had weaknesses, and he used that knowledge to turn his enemy into a pawn of his epic plan. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let us stop for a moment and feel the wind that blew on Heracles as he stepped onto the land of Erytheia, where Geryon's cattle grazed. Feel his determination, his fear of the unknown, his inner fire burning brighter than the flames of Olympus. It was the moment when fate and the will of a mortal intertwined, creating a new page in the book of legends. Imagine that you are standing on the edge of the known world. The sun is scorching your back, and in front of you is a creature so formidable that even the gods whispered his name with fear and awe. An epic battle has begun. Heracles versus the three-headed baron. As soon as he reached the island, the fearsome two-headed dog Ortrus smelled him and rushed at the hero with a bark. Heracles killed him with one blow of his heavy club. Ortrus was not alone in guarding Geryon's flocks. Heracles also had to fight Heryon's shepherd, the giant Eurystheus. The son of Zeus quickly coped with the giant and drove Geryon's cows to the seashore, where the golden boat of Helios stood. Geryon heard the mooing of his cows and went to the herd. Seeing that his dog Ortrus and the giant Erytheia were killed, he chased after the stealer of the herd and caught up with him on the seashore. And so he, Hercules, stands before Geryon, and everyone knows that only one will emerge victorious. The clash was inevitable, and it was glorious. Heracles grappled with Geryon, their muscles tense, the earth shook, and Zeus probably spilled his ambrosia. As a poet describing the battle of the gods, I can say that it was not just a battle, it was a dance with destiny, where every stroke of Heracles' sword was a chord in the symphony of eternity. In his battle with Geryon, Heracles used several implements that emphasized his strength and skill. First, he armed himself with his famous club, carved from the wood of the wild olive tree, which was a symbol of his indestructible strength and ability to overcome any obstacle. This club helped him in close combat and was an integral part of his arsenal. Second, Heracles used arrows soaked with the poison of the Lernaean Hydra, one of the most dangerous creatures he encountered during his exploits. These arrows had a deadly effect and allowed Heracles to strike his enemies from a distance. In addition, Heracles carried with him the lion skin of a Nemean lion, which he used as protection. This pelt was invulnerable to weapons and protected Heracles from enemy attacks. Thus, Heracles was armed not only with physical strength, but also with the wisdom to choose the right tools for each of his feats. His weapons and defenses were not just tools, but symbols of his heroic qualities and unyielding will to win. And when the dust settled, Heracles stood alone, looking at the defeated Geryon. The cattle belonged to him, but the price of victory was high. He had lost friends, lost time, lost a part of himself. But he had also gained something, the realization that heroism lies not only in victories, but in the lessons we learn from our battles. Our hero was victorious. He slew Geryon and took the cattle. The gods, impressed and slightly annoyed, checked the 10th box on their celestial chart. In the end, when Heracles drives the cattle across the land, it is not just a victory over the Geryon. It is a triumph over the very edge of mortality. This story makes us think about our own problems, our own Geryons. What giants do we face in our own lives? And do we have the courage to confront them? So next time you're sipping a glass of milk, raise it to Heracles, the great cattle rustler. And remember, dear listener, life's trials may not include two-headed dogs or three-headed giants, but they are still your cattle of Geryon. Get in the saddle, mount your metaphorical Pegasus, and conquer them. Heroes are not born, they are made through trials and tribulations. Greatness is not in never falling, but in rising after every fall. And that perhaps there is a Heracles living inside each of us, waiting to show the world his strength and wisdom. You can do it. These Heracles stories are more than just stories. They reflect our deepest desires and fears. They remind us that within each of us lurks the power to overcome the insurmountable, to chase our own Geryon's cattle, no matter how far they may stray. Heracles' 10th labor, the cattle of Geryon, is more than a myth. It is a mirror to humanity, reflecting our own struggles, our own monstrous problems. It asks us, what is your Geryon? And more importantly, do you have the courage of a Hercules to overcome him? So, what is your 10th labor? And are you ready to face it head on? At the end of this story, we are left to ponder the nature of our own Geryons. What monsters do we face in the quiet corners of our minds? And what efforts do we make to defeat them? As we part with this myth, let us take with us the spirit of Heracles, the determination to face our Geryons, whatever they may be, for in the end, it is not the gods who ultimately write our destinies, but we ourselves, through our actions, choices and unyielding will to succeed. That's it, folks, the 10th labor of Heracles, where beef met muscle and mythology got a little more fabulous. Until next time, keep your quivers full and your steeds winged, and remember, life is a myth, and it's better to make it legendary.